Hello and welcome to a special bonus series of Locked on Lakers podcast where we talk with ESPN's Tim MacMahon about his new book detailing the life and career of Luka Dončić. Part 2 coming up next.
You are Locked on Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked on Lakers your first listen wherever you get your podcast, Monday through Friday, always free, never behind a paywall. And for the sickos who like to watch, Locked on Lakers is available on YouTube with a community of over 34,000 subscribers. Really fun, energetic, smart group, always leaving comments in the comment section. We use that a lot to shape questions for the show and talking points. Make sure you are subscribing, whether to the audio, to the video, whatever, so you never miss an episode. And this is part 2 of a conversation Brian and I, my brother Brian, had with Tim MacMahon from ESPN about his new book, Wonderboy, Luka Dončić and the Curse of Greatness, which was released Tuesday, March 25th. We covered a lot of ground in this conversation, and in order to fit in the Locked On format, it would have been too long. So we would have had to make a lot of cuts and edits, and we want to do that because there's just a lot of really good stuff in there. So we decided instead to release it as part of a series throughout the week. And today, Wednesday, is part 2, where we cover Luka's competitive wiring and we get into Dallas's very controversial decision to trade him to the Lakers. So without further ado, part 2 of our conversation with Tim MacMahon.
You mentioned earlier, Tim, like the just the incredible competitiveness with which he plays, and we've certainly seen that, in the NBA and with the Lakers. There's also, though, I think a joy that comes from watching him go, like when and he is clearly enjoying himself and brings that to the people who are the crowd and all that. There's an interesting quote that he has. I forget exactly the year, but Sergio Llull with Real Madrid is hurt, and Luka's got to step up, bigger role, all these other things, and he talks about the pressure, and he says it's not pressure, paraphrasing, but it's not pressure because you're doing something that you love to do. Is that still part of his? Does he still have that? Does that get lost in the NBA business and stuff? So
with Luka, there's never melancholy. There's not like, there's never calm, right? There's emotional extremes. It's joy, it's wrath, it's anger, it's agony. I tell you, I just came from LA. I just watched, and obviously the Nuggets, were a shell themselves, but I've been watching Luka on TV. As, by the way, I would say the Lakers ratings in Dallas have skyrocketed since the deal. And you see the joy, and Luka legitimately loves hooping, loves competition. Does he love practice? Does he love preparation? No, but when the scoreboard's on, that's in his element. And I've never once seen, sensed, suspected any stage fright from this kid. Completely immune to that kind of a pressure. Doesn't mean he's always going to get it done, but dude, this guy, he loves being in those spotlight type of situations. Game 7 in Phoenix, on the road against a team that's got the best record in the league. Team's been talking trash the whole series and, all this kind of stuff. Great. I'm going to go rip the soul out of this city. That's who he is. And it's funny because sometimes there can be joy in his wrath. It gets back to the ruthlessness. He loves that scene. Minnesota last year, in the elimination game. He loves, just being able to look around an arena and just know none of you people are having a good time, and that's because I am, that sort of a thing. But when things are going well and basketball's fun, It's like a like Jimi Hendrix playing the guitar. He's just in his own, like just a prodigy in his own. And yeah, he loves that stuff. He loves entertaining. Like, it's funny, Luka does not love necessarily the external entertainment aspect of the basketball business. Like, look, he's not a media darling. I compared to early in his career, like, he treated media like most kids his age do math homework. He's going to do the bare minimum, and he ain't going to enjoy it. He's kind of aged out of that, and he's got a little looser with the media, but like, he doesn't love that. He doesn't necessarily love like the celebrity stuff. It'll be interesting to see how he adapts to that in LA with obviously all of that stuff around him and massive marketing opportunities. But he loves being on the stage. He loves entertaining. He loves putting on a show. He loves, especially making a pass that nobody in the arena saw until the ball was, midway to the target in the air. And just knowing that everybody who's watching that has their jaw dropping, or, their head, hands on their head, is like, holy bleep, what did I just see? And the guy, it's funny, for a guy who is not like, some kind of explosive athlete, like, he's not a guy who's going to put together a highlight reel of dunks, but boy, does he put together a highlight reel. And he doesn't have to leave the floor to do it. But even like the shot making, the finishing in the paint. But again, to me, the best highlights from Luka are the passes. He's made some of the most ridiculous passes. And I'm going to say he's walking in to the Lakers as the second best passer in NBA history. He's got to put together a run to challenge number one. But I'm going to say he's the second best passer in Lakers history.
Well, that's certainly impressive. That is certainly going to get the attention of our listeners now, because
obviously Magic's number one, but who?
No, that's
no.
I mean, it would be LeBron. I think
it's LeBron. Yeah,
I mean, one. But I want to get into let's get into the Lakers stuff, because how what you're talking about now translates not just to his present with the Lakers, but the future, where the Lakers and the Mavericks are making completely opposite bets. The Mavericks decided that the negatives you were talking about, doesn't really love practice, maybe like dad enjoys a steak and some wine or a hookah or whatever it might be, outweigh the positives, and but the risk is too much there with the contract they were going to have to sign him to. The Lakers are making the opposite bet. How does what you were talking about before in terms of the competitiveness, the wrath, the ruthlessness, and then the basketball joy, how does that translate into what you think will happen with Luka in LA post-trade?
Well, I think the first thing we got to go with here is Nico Harrison or nobody else in that front office asked me for my advice. My advice would have been, no, you don't trade the 5-time first-team All-NBA selection who's yet to turn 26 years old. No, you just deal with it for a little bit longer with the guy who averaged 34, 10, and 9 and led you to the finals last year. Does he have flaws? Yes. Diet, discipline, conditioning, are those concerns? Have they been concerns his whole career? Yes. But my God, the historic production certainly outweighs the flaws. And, Patrick Dumont, the Mavericks governor, I'm not sure he knows a whole lot about basketball. He did cite Shaquille O'Neal among the legends who were like these, guys who epitomize work ethic. Mm-hmm. Well, I think you guys probably following Shaq's career would agree with my contention that Shaq is actually Exhibit A, that some dudes are just so talented that you wish they took the conditioning stuff a bit more seriously.
Or at the very least, Shaq is the example of, if you want to believe the Mavs side of this is the risk they're taking. Like the idea that a guy will rely so much on his extraordinary talent that he'll think he can do the bare minimum for the conditioning. I'm, to be clear, not saying that is necessarily a risk for Luka. I'm just saying it's a bizarre example of the guys you want Luka to emulate maybe one of the only guys who was worse with his conditioning than Luka.
Some guys can won title every single season and still be an all-time great.
Yeah.
Luka is on that path, and there have been 1 or 2 years he actually came in pretty good shape. But Luka's on that path, and Shaq did that. Now, the other thing is by trading him, and look, this is a franchise that prioritized kissing Luka's ass for 6 years and then stabbed him in the back. That's the only way to describe the way this went down. They stabbed him in the back, and they publicly dumped on him on the way out. Like, they broke his heart and then humiliated him. Okay? This is a slap in his face. He has been insanely disrespected by the Dallas Mavericks franchise. If this doesn't get him to say, like, I've talked about that wrath and that ruthless competitiveness. If this doesn't get him to transfer that competitiveness into the mundane stuff, the conditioning, the guy's probably always going to have a few beers. I don't know, man. So did Larry Bird, by the way, another guy Dumont mentioned. But if this doesn't get him to really kind of lock into the mundane preparation stuff, then nothing ever will. If he does lock into that, I mean, again, stack his numbers up to any 26-year-old in NBA history. There's only a few who you can put on the same page. And if the best is yet to come, sheesh. Now, the bet with the Mavericks is that his body's going to break down. We'll see. I can't bet against a generational talent who, and it's not even that you're betting on potential. He's proven.
Mm-hmm.
He's proven that he is one of the, you can't make it any sort of reasonable argument that he's any worse than the 4th best player in the league. And, you can get as high, as 2 or 3 very easily.
And we're going to take a quick break to let everyone know that Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Gametime. There is nothing like watching basketball live, the energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. And if you want to see a game in person, Gametime makes getting tickets easier and faster than ever. Gametime's new feature, Gametime Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you don't waste any time scrolling through thousands of tickets. And the super deals makes Gametime Picks even better because they highlight the best bang for your buck. You also get peace of mind knowing that you're going to have seat views before you buy. There's no surprise fees, the lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Along these lines, too, with Luka and the narrative with his conditioning, which, I mean, it's been an open secret for years. It's just louder now. And Nico Harrison, Charles Dumont laying it on pretty thick after the trade, the leaked comments that are even rougher. Like, from your understanding, Tim, how directly did the Mavericks actually confront Luka about this or, like, really actively try to get him to change? Like, is this a situation where you think they can honestly say, man, we exhausted all our possibilities and we can look in the mirror and say, whether you agree with the decision or not, we were left with no choice because we could not get through to him?
First of all, you can't say left with no choice. You just can't. You went to the finals last year. You went to the finals.
I mean, I'm not saying it to justify it. It's more the idea of how much did they actually try to change this, as opposed to, as you said, kiss his ass the whole time and then stab him.
And there were certainly discussions about it throughout the course of his career. And then, I'm not in those meetings. How direct is the communication? I don't know, but it was a point of discussion. The other thing is, like, look, Luka has basically been forced to acknowledge on several occasions throughout the course of his career that it needs to be better. Was that due to direct conversation? Was it due to, it becoming a media storyline? Was it due to, Reggie Miller blasting him for an entire TNT broadcast early in the first season of the Kid Harrison regime? But like, it's not like it hasn't been something that Luka has acknowledged. He can be better. He should be better. He needs to be better. But again, what you can't say is the Mavericks had no choice, because Luka took one team. Now we know Brunson absolutely was a bona fide co-star, but Luka, Brunson, and a bunch of role players went to the conference finals when Luka was, I'm trying to do the math in my head, 22, 23, I think. And then, a couple of years later, he took a completely different cast. Kyrie's a legit co-star, but a completely different cast to the finals. So you can't say, well, you just can't win this way. You had. Did you win in the finals or the championship games, as Dumont called them, or one of his appearances? No, but you know what? You'd been to the finals, and certainly I think you had a pretty good shot at getting back there, with Luka at some point in the near and longer term future. But was he going to mature? Was he going to change his ways? I don't know, and we'll never find out. Again, I think this increases the chances that he does actually, which increases the chances of this thing looking just,
revenge body coming.
Oh yeah, that's what
I hope. That's the hope of Lakers fans, is that the spite that he gets into spite shape, or maybe the influence of LeBron helps a little bit, but I think mostly we're counting on spite.
Well, my wife asked me right after the trade. She says, "Is Luka going to get a revenge body?" I was like, "Hold on, what are you trying to tell me? Boss, you look good now. You don't need any revenge. We're good." But look, is LeBron a potentially phenomenal role model for him? Yeah, but you know what? Luka had the roadmap before. He came in, and Dirk was on his last legs. But trust me, if you want to learn about how to take care of yourself, diet, conditioning, discipline, Dirk's a hell of a role model. And Dirk was an open book and more than happy to help. Not going to say you got to do this, this, and this, but and continues to be, by the way, as was clearly indicated by the fact that Dirk flew commercial to go to LA to be there for Luka during his Lakers debut. Kyrie does a phenomenal job taking care of himself and is a maniac about fitness and preparation. So Luka's had the roadmap. I would say the commitment and desire ebbed and flowed, to put it politely. I think he has said actually that this is motivation. And again, playing his way into shape, Luka has been pretty damn good so far. So if it's locked in, Luka, you know what? It's funny. I'm outside the arena the other day there, and obviously you look around and see all the statues. If I had to put a bet down, there will be a statue of Luka outside that arena at some point down the road. I don't think that's a bold statement.
No, that's the hope. That's the hope. That's the design. That is absolutely what the Lakers are banking on. I think with this trade is that he becomes, there's LeBron's going to get one, and and Luka follows.
And coming up either Thursday or Friday, we're going to have the final installment of our conversation with Tim MacMahon. Until then, we will see everybody soon.